We are going to start the today's class now. We were discussing the comparative study of 1H NMR and 13C NMR. I hope all of you you are with the pen and paper. Today's topic will be covering the remaining part of our comparison, and then we'll move to another topic which is very important in terms of 13C NMR. So we are discussing the in the last class the comparison, and we covered the chemical shift and spin coupling part, and we have given few of the questions. So have you tried the questions, particularly question number 2 and in the B part? So anybody has the answer for this compound, how it will be your proton decoupled 13C spectra for the following compounds, how it will look like? So how many peaks you are going to get? Say suppose compound 1, how many peak you are going to obtain? So we'll quickly try to finish this one and then we'll move to the remaining part. So compound 1, how many you will get? So you have 1 fluorine and you have 3 hydrogen, so it is fluoromethane, monofluoromethane. The J coupling, 1 bond given as 180 and 2 bonds given as 40 Hertz. So what will be the number of peaks you are going to get in this particular situation? Can you tell the 13C how many peak you are going to get for compound 1? Quick, you tried or not? 1 peak. So any other answer? Any other answer? 2. So the bottom line is how to come up with the answer, right? So your answer should be always the same. When you are differing with the answers, that means you are not actually coming to the point. How to calculate this one? So that is the simple reason, simple formula we have seen in the last class, 2Ni plus 1. Okay, so we are looking at the carbon peak, and that carbon peak will be obtained by the influence of the nearby atom. Okay, so this is already told that this NMR is the proton decoupled, so that means proton will not have any impact, only the fluorine will have the impact. Okay, and fluorine already the I value given as half, similar to the proton and carbon also. So how many fluorine you have? 1 fluorine, so 2Ni plus 1, 2Ni plus 1, that will be the value. So that means how many you are getting? Your I is half, N is 1, so that means you are going to get 2 peaks. Okay, so your carbon will be doublet due to the presence of 1 fluorine. Okay, and you don't have here 2 bonds coupling. Here you have only single bond coupling because you have fluorine directly attached to 1 carbon and there is no other carbon in this molecule. So you have only the coupling constant will be utilized as 180 Hertz. This one you are going to get. Okay, so now you tell me what will be the number of peak for trifluoromethane? So this compound 2, how many peaks you are going to? Yeah, so it will be 4, n plus 1, right? 2ni plus 1, ultimately it will be n plus 1, so it will be 4 peaks. Okay, now these 4 peaks, what will be the intensity, how it will be coming? So this is Pascal rule, okay, Pascal triangle, because your I is half, so 1:3:2. Right? So what will be the situation for the compound 3? Now you have to be careful with your answer. Okay, in this molecule, what you have carbon 1 and carbon 2. Okay, so you have to be very specific. You have to tell, like, when you have the carbon 1, okay, so for C1, how many peak you are going to get? 3 peaks, right? For C1 you are going to get 3 peaks, and C2, so you have 2 bond coupling, CF and then CC, so you have 2 bond coupling. So here for C, when it is triplet, for C1, your coupling constant will be used as this one, okay, 180 hertz. For C2, it will be used as 40 hertz. Okay, so for C2, how many peaks you are going to get again? How many peaks? 2 or 3? It is again 3. Yes or no? Because you have 2 fluorine, they are connected, they are related to this C2. Yes or no? Through 2 bonds. The C2 is related to the fluorine with 2 bonds, right? And both the fluorine are of similar type. So I can use n plus 1 rule. So again it will be triplet. Only difference is here you are going to get 1:2:1, 1:2:1, sorry, 1:2:1. Here also you will get 1:2:1. So what will be the differences in the peak pattern? You have more gap in the C1 peak pattern. So if you have the C1 like this, okay, for C2 it will be closer, right? The same height, but it will be, sorry, closer. Got it? My drawings are not good, but anyway, you have to have the equal gap. Okay, so here the gap will be more, but here the gap will be less, because your coupling constant here is 40 hertz and here 180, around 180. Okay, you got it? So that will be the nature of your peak. What we are going to see for now, it is easier. What you are going to see for this compound 4. Again you have 2 carbon, right? 2 carbons, 1 and 2. So for C1 we will be having C1 and C2. So here you will get 4 peaks, 4 peaks. So quadrate both the cases. So 1:3:3:1. Both the cases. The only difference will be the peak gaps. Okay. So this is 1:3:3. 3 is to 3 is to 1, and another will be closer, so 1 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1. Okay, so that will be the differences. For compound 5, what will be the nature of your peak? What will be the nature of the a bit louder? C1, C2. Okay, so C1, what will be the nature of the peak? Who can tell correctly? So C1, yeah, so both, so what we see here is for C1, what you will see, C1 is connected directly with 2-fluorine, right? One bond connection, and it is also connected with 2-bond fluorine. Okay, so this is one bond, this is another bond. So 2-bond fluorine connection is there for C1 as well as 1-bond connection. For 1-bond connection, you have 2 fluorines, and that has the maximum coupling constant values 180. So what will happen is at the beginning we'll see the triplet. So we have 2 fluorines, so you will see initially the triplet. Okay, so initial triplet, so this is 1 is to 2 is to 1. Okay, and then what you will see, you have one fluorine which is 2-bond connected, so it will do doublet. Okay, so each of the peak will be splitted into doublet. Understood? Each of the peak will be splitted into doublets. Got it? So this is the situation for C1. C2, tell what will be the situation for C2? What will be the situation for C2? Yes, triplets. Okay, so individual will be further split into triplets. So first will be doublet. So let me draw first the doublet. Okay, first will be doublets, uh, and then individual peak will be split into triplets. So you have 2 tiny things will be there. Understood? So this will be the nature of C2. Okay, if you look at the number of peaks, both the cases same, it is 6 and 6, but the nature of peaks will be different. Tell what will be the situation for 6? What will be the nature for 6? Yeah, so it is easier now. You have 3 fluorine connected with single bond, so that will give a quadrate. So you have quadrate 1 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1, and then you have 1 fluorine connected with 2 bond distance, so that will make doublet. Okay, so each of the peak will be doublet. Okay, each of the peak will be doublet. So we call it like doublet of quadrate. Okay, so doublet of quadrate. This is the C1. C2, C2 will be, you have single bond connected first, so you will have a doublet first, then you will have a quadrate. Okay, so quadrate of the doublet, so that means you have to have like 2 doublets at the initial situation. Okay, 2 doublets, and then individually will be splitted into quadrate. Okay, so you have Okay, you have quadrate. You have, so this is quadrate of doublet. Okay, so that way the splitting will be observed for this type of fluorinated hydrocarbons. Okay, so in this case fluorine will be helping for the splitting. So I hope everybody you got the point. So if such type of question comes in exam, should be able to give the answer. Okay, so we are discussing the integration, and we already have come to know that for proton NMR the integration means that is proton counting, and 13C NMR will have similarly the integration, if we at all think about, that will be of the number of carbon, okay, counting. Now here the spectra has been given, and that in the last class I have discussed. So the spectra of this methyl ester of the uh, paramethyl benzoic acid, okay, and from this spectra what we come to know is that this is the 2-ortho hydrogen, and that can be confirmed by the corresponding doublets here. And if we calculate the peak chemical shift differences, what we have observed in the last class also, the differences between the doublets individual peaks. So you have the 0.02 ppm, and if you multiply with the machine, okay, strength, what you will get it as, this is ppm, what we will get it as 8 hertz, okay, 8 hertz, and that matches with the ranges for the ortho coupling, and that's why we call these two protons should be ortho to each other, okay, and this 0.02 will find for this one also. So both the cases you have the peak differences 0.02, and this around 2 we have the allylic or benzylic, okay, proton, so that is for this one, and you have the integration value given 3, so this is methyl, okay, this is also 3, this is connected to the oxygen, okay, so this is also methyl, so value it shows it should be connected with the oxygen because it is above 3.5. Now here you can easily see that two protons, orthoprotons, okay, they are individually of two numbers. So this proton and this proton are same, a similar environment. This proton and these protons are also in similar environment. That's why they are coming in two numbers. Okay. So from the figure and the structure, we can correlate that the proton counting is possible, okay, and that is called as the integration. So for proton, integration is very common, we can do, because uh, the spectra is obtained from a single molecule, okay, a single molecule. So this spectra is from a single molecule. In the last class we have seen the 99% of the compound is of C12H1H isotopes, okay. Now what about the 13C integration? If we look at the same compound, okay, if you look at the same compound, what we find is that from this figure we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, so 7 types of carbon, okay, 7 types of carbon. Now if you look at the structure, you have 1 2 3 4 5 sorry 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So you have 7 carbons. So if you look at, I have marked them. So this is one, this is another carbon, this is third carbon types, fourth, this is fifth one. Now you have these two cases, you have this carbon and this carbon are same, so that are given. So you have one type, so this is I can call 6, and this carbon and this carbon, they are similar type, okay, so I can call 7. So this 7 carbon is reflected here, but what we find is that the peaks height are not, okay, matching. The peaks height are not matching. Say suppose you have, this is one carbon, this is 167. So who can tell which is responsible for this carbon? 167. Can anybody tell? 167 peak is for what carbon? Quickly. Ester. Ester means you have to tell the carbonyl carbon. Okay. So you have C. Okay. C. Yeah. C double bond O. That carbon. Okay. C double bond O means this is carbon. 2 carbon. Okay. So this carbon. So this is a single carbon, right? So its peak is like this much. Only this tiny peak. Okay. Now if you look at this other peaks. Okay. Say suppose this bigger peak, okay, this bigger peak, if you see, you have 2 here, they are very close, the values are very close. So these two, what we can assign as 2 carbon 2 carbon, okay, they are 2 carbon 2 carbon. So that 2, which one? This 6 and 7, okay, they are 2 carbon system. Now individually if you take and compare with this 1 carbon, what you are getting here is your 2 carbon, that is also quaternary carbon, you don't have any hydrogen attached with it, okay, and the C double bond O, that carbon also quaternary, you don't have hydrogen attached with it, okay. So this 2C, if you divide, like your 1C will come like this height, right, and here 1C is this much tiny, so this is like 3 times of this one, okay. So if you take integration 1 here, if you take this is as 1 machine, if you put the integration 1, what this will take, it will take maybe 6, okay, individually it will take 6. So one will take 6, another will take 6, because the two nearby, okay. And this one you have another C system, so this is another 1 carbon. So that means what we are finding is that it's not matching, okay, your integration is not matching. What we expect from the proton is, if you just do calibration, one, if you look, give the 3 here, this is methyl 3, automatically this will take, this 2 will take individually as 2, okay. And in 13C you will not find like that. Sometimes your 1 carbon will be smaller, sometimes the same carbon will be bigger, okay. Here if you look at, this is again 1 carbon system, right, this is 1 carbon, methyl carbon. So that two also are much bigger than this tiny one, okay. So this is quite abnormal, okay, it's looking abnormal. Why this is not matching? Why? So from this particular spectrum and the corresponding structure, what we find is that integration for 13C is not matching, okay. So you cannot do integration. Now the question is, why we cannot do integration? Who can tell? In the previous discussion I did some discussion, based on that you can tell why the integration is not possible here. Quickly, can anybody have any idea? Yeah, so that is absolutely correct as one of the reason. Okay, so what we find is that in 13C, this peak, okay, what we are getting is not from one particular molecule. It is the different molecules, they are individually contributing for one carbon. Okay, they are contributing for one carbon. So that's why uh, now if you like, if you think in a system, you may not have all the molecules which are contributing the carbon number, okay, or carbon peak may not be of same percentage. Understood? In nature, you may not have the same percentage of individual uh, molecule which are contributing the individual peak. Okay, they may not have the population of same. Okay, they may have different populations. Okay, so that is one of the reason. Okay, that is one of the reason. If you look at even minutely, what we find is that this carbon C double bond O, or these tiny carbons, okay, this, they are for these three. So one is for, okay, let me tell here, this is C double bond O, so this is one, okay, C double bond O, very tiny. You have this one, okay. So how many tiny peak you can see? 3, right? So this is 1, 2 and 3, each of one carbon. Okay. And if you look at these two, they are bigger, and that two are for this 2-methyl. Okay. So that is 2-methyl system. Okay. What we find is that this tiny single carbon peak, they do not have any hydrogen at all. Okay, look at this carbonyl carbon, this and these three, they are tiny, they do not have any hydrogen attached with it. The middle one, this 2C carbon, they have one hydrogen attached. Okay, one hydrogen attached. One hydrogen attached. So from these particular peaks and the corresponding peak height, what I just now discussed, we have a sense that when we are having more hydrogen attached to the carbon, the peak height is relatively bigger, right? The peak height is relatively bigger, and that we find quite true. It is not just for one molecule what I have shown here, it is almost all the molecules, it will follow the same trend. If you have number of hydrogen more attached to the single particular carbon, that carbon peak in proton decoupled 13C, the height will be bigger, okay, in comparison to the less number of carbon attached to the particular carbon, less number of hydrogen attached to the particular carbon. Okay. Now it has some meaning where from it is coming, and that can be explained by nuclear Overhauser effect. Okay. So today we'll look at nuclear Oberhauser enhancement. So we call like this is enhancement effect or enhancement. Uh, so just look at very carefully. Number one here, what we find is when a proton decoupled 13C spectrum is obtained, the intensity of many of the carbon resonances increase significantly above those observed in the proton coupled experiment. What does it tell? It tells, suppose you have CH, okay, I am telling these are different group, okay, these are different group. You have one CH. So if you do proton decoupled spectrum, how many peak you will get? You have one carbon, right? I'm telling R, you don't consider having carbon. Okay, I'm just talking about single carbon system. In proton decoupled spectrum, how many peaks you will get? It is a single carbon, one peak you will get, right? And proton coupled spectra, how many you will get? In proton decoupled is this one. In proton coupled, how many you will get? How many peak you will get? Two peaks you will get, right? Correct. Two peaks, because you have proton here, this proton coupled, that means proton will be splitting the carbon. Proton spin is half, so 2Ni plus 1, so that means N plus 1, 2 peaks. So you'll get 2 peaks, okay, you'll get 2 peaks, so you'll have a doublet, okay. Now what differences we find in proton coupled and proton decoupled spectrum is that in proton decoupled spectrum the peak height will be, it will be more longer, okay, than proton coupled. So this is proton decoupled and this is proton coupled, okay. So the peak height will be longer than the proton coupled, okay, that is told here. This phenomena we have we will observe, okay. So what we can tell is that when you are doing proton decoupled, you have some enhancement, right? So this much was proton coupled height, now you have this much enhancement, okay. So this is told here. Then you have carbon atoms with hydrogen atoms directly attached are enhanced the most, and the enhancement increases but not always linearly as more hydrogens are attached, that we have seen in the spectrum. If you are having carbon attached with hydrogen, we have the enhancement, okay, and that enhancement may not be linear. It may vary from molecule to molecule, but there will be enhancement, and if you have more number of hydrogens, it will be more enhanced, okay. So that is another point. Now this enhancement we call as nuclear Oberhauser enhancement, okay, and that is given by a theoretical equation is half, okay, in multiply with, you have magnetogyric ratio and this is magnetogyric ratio. Now this, yeah, that is the point we are going to discuss now, okay. So you just need to be patient and let me finish the whole thing, you have a very nice idea, okay. So that you will get, just try to listen that I am going to discuss. So just start it with, okay, is a topic of the discussion. So in proton decoupled spectrum, how we are actually doing the NMR. If you recall in my previous semester lecture, how we do the proton decoupled spectrum, can anybody just highlight, or you forgot? Can you recall anybody, or I should tell? Okay, let me tell you. What we do in proton decoupled 13C, Our target is to hide the proton, okay, so that proton should not go to the coupling of with the carbon, okay. That how to do? If you remember, we have used one terminology there as saturation. So what we do is, in this experiment, we have two irradiation system, okay. So there are two sources of irradiation. One is particularly for the proton and another is for carbon, okay. So two irradiation, one is for proton, another is for carbon. Now that two irradiation will be done in such a way that the proton will be irradiated quickly to make it go to the saturation point. That means you have two energy levels, you have beta and alpha energy level, okay, and at equilibrium normal situation you have more excess population at the alpha ground state, okay, and you have less population at the, so this is less population, more population, okay, at the ground state, both for carbon and proton, okay. Now what you are doing, you are irradiating the proton molecules, the proton nuclei, to make the saturation. That means you have, when you are going to irradiate with radio frequency, you have the population shifting, right? So from here to here it will be jumping. So some of the nuclei will be irradiated and it will go to the higher state. Saturation means you have the equal distribution between the energy level and the lower energy level. When the number will be equal, then it will be NMR inactive, right? Then it will be NMR inactive. So here gyromagnetic ratio or magnetogyric ratio, IRR, means this is, it replies to the 1H, okay. If we talk about the carbon 13 NMR in presence of 1H. So proton decoupled, what we are doing, extra irradiation we are doing, we are irradiating the proton to make it saturation as early as possible. And what we are, in terms what we are observing, we are observing the 13C NMR. So this gyromagnetic ratio is for the 13C, okay, carbon observed NMR, okay. So that's why it is OBS, okay. Now if you just put the value of the gyromagnetic ratio of the corresponding proton and 13C, for proton we know it is 267.5 and 13C it is 67.28, so that value comes around 1.98, okay, 1.98. Got it? So that means you have the enhancement, okay, so twice enhancement, so it is around 2. So this enhancement will be, nuclear overhauser enhancement is 2, okay. So that we will see. So 200% enhancement theoretically possible, okay, but actually we don't see always 200 times, it may be less times, but what we find is there should be enhancement if you do proton decoupled, okay. Now as the number of carbon is as the number of increasing, we will have more enhancement, okay. This is for one hydrogen attached. If you have more hydrogen attached, it will have more enhancement, okay, that particular carbon. So that makes the differences. Now always remember, this nuclear overhauser enhancement is not due to the direct connection of the two nuclei, okay. So proton and carbon has to be connected to each other, it doesn't, okay, it's not like that. It may be connected, may not be connected, but this nuclear overhauser impact or enhancement it is observed if your proton is in close proximity of the carbon, okay, and that close proximity relation is given by uh, this equation, okay. So your nuclear Oberhauser effect or enhancement is proportional to 1 by r cube, so where r is the distance between the carbon and hydrogen, okay. If your carbon and hydrogen are closer enough, you have more nuclear Oberhauser effect, okay. If they are far away, the nuclear Oberhauser effect will be less, okay. So that means closer hydrogen will have more enhancement than will impart more enhancement than the hydrogen which is away from the carbon. Now, any any queries? Is it fine? Okay. So nuclear Oberhauser enhancement we can so in nuclear Oberhauser enhancement, the signal enhancement due to nuclear Oberhauser effect is an example of cross polarization. Okay, cross polarization. This terminology you have to remember. This cross polarization, in which a polarization of the spin states in one type of nuclei or nucleus causes the polarization of the spin states in other nucleus. Understood? So one nucleus, due to irradiation, its population is changing, so your polarization, individual polarization is changing, and due to that change, the another nuclei nearby, it is being influenced, okay, and that gets oriented, and that's polarization also will be changed, okay. So in proton decoupled 13C spectra, when the hydrogens in the molecule are irradiated, they become saturated, as I told, and attain a distribution of spins very different from the equilibrium or Boltzmann state. That means before irradiation, whatever was the distribution between the uh, ground state and the excited state, after irradiation, the distributions of the population will be different, okay, and there are more spins than normal in excited state, okay. In normal situation, what was the number of nuclei at the higher state or higher energy level is different than when you are irradiating, okay. So in normal, suppose you have these two states, here suppose you have 4 nuclei, here you have 1 nuclei. This is suppose Boltzmann distribution of total 5 nuclei at normal room temperature, okay. Now when you are irradiating, say suppose one molecule went there, so you have 2 and 3. So what is told here, in normal situation, what will be the population at the higher state is different than the higher state after excitation, okay, after irradiation. Due to that differences, uh, what happens, the interactions of spin dipoles, that spin of the carbon nuclei sense, okay. So due to that differences, you are having the spin change, okay. Overall system will have spin polarization of this particular nuclei, and due to that, what happens, the nearby nuclei, it can sense the change in spin polarization of the nuclei which is irradiated, okay, for saturation. And what that will do, to maintain the overall equilibrium, the nearby nuclei will orient itself, or its population will be changing. So in that case, for nearby nuclei, this is, say suppose hydrogen system, for nearby nuclei, what happens is it will try to rearrange itself, and it will manage to maintain the overall polarization, and that will be done by decreasing the population at its excited state. So what it will do? It will quickly release the nuclei from the excited state to the ground state. Okay, and in that way your ground state population will be increasing of the nearby nuclei. In this case it is the 13C. So you got the idea what is told here. So the nuclei which is undergoing saturation, its excited state population is increasing, which changes its spin polarization. Okay, and that is influencing the nearby nuclei, different nuclei, that is, say suppose 13C, and that 13C, what it will do to maintain the overall polarization, your 13C population at its higher energy state will be decaying and its ground state population will be increasing. So this is kind of change in polarization of the nearby nuclei, and that is we called as cross polarization. Okay, so that happens. Is it clear to you? It's not clear, because the next slide what I am going to explain, it will be the time is also short. What I am telling is, in 13C NMR proton decoupled, what we do, we try to first make the proton undergoing saturation, so that proton will be inactive. When it goes saturation, it will be inactive, so it will not give signals to the spectrum, right? That is proton decoupled spectrum. Now when you are irradiating the proton nuclei, what happens? Its ground state population is going to decaying and excited state population is going to increase. Okay, now at normal stage, before excitation or before irradiating, it has certain population at its excited state, and when it is in saturation, it has population different in its excited state. Okay, so that is shown here. In equilibrium, okay, or in normal situation, you have less population in the excited state or the higher energy level. After irradiation, so this is after irradiation, you have more population at the excited state or higher state. Okay, so if your population is increasing, your spin, overall spin will be changed, yes or no? If you have less number of nuclei and more number of nuclei, both the cases you have the differences of spin polarization. Okay, your spin will be different, spin dipole amount will be different. Okay, that we call the polarization of the spin. Now what happens is, you have nearby 13C. Okay, since the overall system is disturbed by increasing the population of the spin at its higher state for the proton, the whole system try to maintain the spin dipole overall dipolar fact, okay, of the whole system. What it will do immediately? It has to lower down the spin, okay, and that can be done only the nearby nuclei, only by the nearby nuclei. Now nearby nuclei have certain population at its excited state, and you have certain population here. Okay, so what it will do, it will release the molecule, I mean nuclei, from its excited state to the ground state. So this transition will take place, and in this case your population of the ground state will increase. Okay, since population of the ground state is increasing, so more the population at the ground state, okay, what will happen? Now you are slowly irradiating, so your more population now, so that will have better signaling or more intense peak. Are you getting? Yeah. So today actually you have second class. Now I'm not going further. It is a bit interesting topic. I just give the linguistically. Okay. In next class, what I will do explanation in schematically. Okay. That will be helping you more to understand the exact fact. Okay. So we'll be meeting again on maybe for Wednesday for this class. Okay. So we'll be discussing the nuclear Oberhauser enhancement in terms of examples. Okay, and its application will be seen in NMR or structure determination. Okay, of the organ molecule. So let me close here. You just go through this one, it will be clear slowly. Okay.